My wife left me after 10 years of marriage for her trainer, but now she wants me back. Hey, I'm Jake, 36, a regular guy, mortgage payer, dad, and apparently, the stepping stone in my wife's glow-up and blow-up saga. This is the story of how my wife decided that losing a few pounds also meant she could lose her husband, her common sense, and eventually her dignity. So let's rewind to when things were normal. Vanessa, yeah, that's what we'll call her, was never into the whole fitness craze. We were both pretty average. Married for nearly 10 years, parents to a wonderful little girl. Living that typical suburban life where excitement was finding a new show to binge and fine dining meant not eating in front of the TV. But about a year ago, Vanessa decided she wanted to get healthy. New year. New her. Nothing unusual, right? I was all for it. I cheered her on when she joined this fancy gym downtown. She hired a personal trainer, started meal prepping like she was auditioning for MasterChef, and even bought matching gym outfits because apparently, fashion helps you squat better. First, I was genuinely happy for her. She was glowing, more energy, more confidence, and honestly, I thought it was great for both of us. I joke about joining her, but between juggling work deadlines, school runs, and keeping the house from falling apart, my version of cardio was sprinting to take the trash out before the truck came. But then, the vibe shifted. What started as, I'm doing this for my health, slowly morphed into, I'm too good for this life now. The gym sessions got longer. The selfies got more frequent. The phone? Practically surgically attached to her hand, always buzzing with notifications that she'd quickly hide. Enter Travis. Yes, Travis, the human embodiment of every gym cliché. Imagine a guy who thinks flexing on every reflective surface is a personality trait. He had that smug grin, protein shakes always in hand, and arms covered in motivational quotes like, no pain, no gain, which in hindsight, should have been a warning for me. First, I played it cool. I mean, trainers are supposed to be encouraging, right? But great session today. Texts turned into late-night laughing fits over private jokes. When I'd ask who she was texting, I'd get the classic eye roll followed by, relax, Jake. Not everyone's out to cheat on their spouse. Funny how people get defensive over things you didn't accuse them of. Weeks dragged into months. Vanessa's attitude towards me went from distant to downright dismissive. Suddenly, my stable job was uninspiring. My love for weekend BBQs was unhealthy. And even my choice of socks became a punchline. Then came the morning. It was a Saturday. I was making pancakes for our daughter, because apparently, I'm old-fashioned like that. When Vanessa strolled into the kitchen, looking like she'd rehearsed this moment in the mirror. We need to talk, she said, with the same tone you'd use to cancel a gym membership. I knew, deep down, I knew what was coming, but hearing it still felt like a punch to the gut. I think we should separate. I need space to find myself. Find herself? Lady, you weren't lost, you were just bored. Of course, she framed it like some empowering journey of self-discovery. What she really meant was, I've convinced myself that Travis and his biceps are my ticket to a hotter, more exciting life. I sat there, staring at my coffee, while our daughter happily munched on pancakes, blissfully unaware that her mom was detonating our family before noon. The days after were a blur. She moved into a rental apartment just for now, leaving me with the house, the bills, and a million questions. I'd love to tell you I handled it like a champ from day one. But no, I was a mess. You don't just flip a switch when your partner of 10 years decides you're yesterday's news. But here's the thing, pain has a funny way of sharpening your focus. After the initial pity party, and maybe one too many nights with pizza and sad movies, I realized something important. Vanessa didn't just walk out on me. She freed me. Freed me from years of subtle digs, from being taken for granted, and from a relationship where loyalty was apparently optional. So, while Vanessa was out finding herself, or more accurately, finding Travis's apartment, I started rebuilding. Not just my life, but myself. Because if she thought I was going to sit around waiting for her to regret her choices, she clearly forgot who she married. Oh, I wasn't planning revenge. I didn't need to. I knew life and a certain personal trainer's track record would handle that for me. If there's one thing about getting blindsided by a midlife crisis wrapped in Lululemon, it's that you learn real quick who you are when the dust settles. After Vanessa packed her gym bags, and trust me, she had plenty of those, and strutted off to her new chapter, I found myself standing alone in a house that suddenly felt way too big and way too quiet. The first week was rough. I'm not gonna lie and pretend I immediately became some inspirational divorce glow-up story. Nope. I sat on that couch, ate enough takeout to fund a small restaurant, and binged every show that Netflix dared to recommend. But somewhere between episode 14 of some cooking competition and realizing I hadn't worn real pants in 3 days, it hit me this wasn't how my story was going to go. Vanessa wasn't coming back, and honestly, I didn't want her to. So I did what any self-respecting man would do after getting ditched for a protein shake with abs. I got off the couch and started figuring out what I wanted. First step? The gym. Yeah, ironic, right? But this wasn't about revenge abs or some dramatic makeover montage. It was about proving to myself that I could take control of my life again. Plus, I wasn't about to let Travis be the only one flexing in this town. I found a local place, not Vanessa's temple of ego, just a simple gym where people actually worked out instead of filming TikToks. The first few sessions were brutal. Muscles I didn't know existed screamed at me, but every drop of sweat felt like I was scrubbing away pieces of my old life. Next up, cleaning house, literally and figuratively. I boxed up every reminder of Vanessa's new me phase. The detox teas, the inspirational wall art about hustle, and yes, even the blender she swore was life-changing. I donated most of it, but I kept one mug that said strong is the new sexy because it made for a great pen holder and an even better reminder of how ridiculous things had gotten. Financially, I tightened up. Vanessa had left me with more than just emotional baggage. There were bills, joint accounts to untangle, and a mortgage that didn't care about my broken heart. But I handled it. Got a side gig consulting, cut unnecessary expenses, and slowly watched my savings stabilize. And then there was our daughter. If anything kept me grounded, it was her. She didn't care about drama or who was finding themselves. She just wanted pancakes on Saturday and someone to cheer at her soccer games. Being a single dad wasn't part of the plan, but it became the best part of my week. Meanwhile, Vanessa's new life was all over social media. Gym selfies, brunch pics with Travis, and captions like, living my best life. It was like watching a reality show where you already knew the season finale would be a disaster. Friends started reaching out, some with sympathy, others with gossip. Did you see Vanessa's latest post? I heard Travis doesn't exactly have a great track record. I smiled and nodded, but I wasn't interested in keeping tabs. I didn't need to. I knew people like Travis. The type who loved the chase but had no clue how to handle real life once the excitement faded. Sure enough, cracks started to show. Vanessa stopped posting as much. When she did, Travis was conspicuously absent. The captions shifted from living my best life to self-care is important during tough times. Classic. Then one evening I got the text. Hey, can we talk? I stared at the screen, a smirk creeping onto my face. Oh, how the tables were turning. But I wasn't about to rush into that conversation. While Vanessa was busy realizing that better than me wasn't all it was cracked up to be, I was too busy building a version of myself that didn't need her or anyone like her. Now, when you get that, hey, can we talk, text from the person who torched your marriage for a gym fling, you don't exactly drop everything and roll out the red carpet. Nah, I let that message marinate for 2 whole days. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. When I finally replied with a casual, sure, what's up? Vanessa was quick to suggest we meet for coffee. Neutral ground, public place, probably hoping I wouldn't cause a scene. Joke's on her, I was past the drama stage. We met at this little cafe downtown. I walked in feeling lighter than I had in years, physically and mentally. Funny what shedding dead weight can do for you. Vanessa was already there, fiddling with her phone, looking different. Not just physically, though I did notice she wasn't sporting the same Fitspo Queen vibe anymore. No, this was a different kind of change. She looked tired. Like reality had finally caught up to her new chapter. Hey, Jake, she started, flashing that awkward smile people use when they know they've screwed up but don't want to admit it outright. Vanessa, I nodded, keeping it cool. You wanted to talk? She launched into this speech about how fast things moved and how she didn't realize what she had until it was gone. Classic greatest hits of regret. I sipped my coffee, letting her ramble. Turns out, Travis wasn't exactly Prince Charming once the novelty wore off. Shocking, I know. Apparently, he had a habit of motivating multiple clients, if you catch my drift, and Vanessa wasn't special after all. I thought I needed something different, she said, voice trembling slightly. But I see now that I made a mistake. I leaned back, studying her. Part of me wanted to lay into her, to list every way she'd torn our family apart chasing some fantasy. But honestly, I didn't feel the need. Vanessa, I'm glad you figured that out, I said calmly. But I've moved on. Her face fell. Moved on? Is there someone else? I almost laughed. Like moving on had to mean finding a replacement. No, Vanessa. I moved on from you. From the person who thought I was disposable. She blinked, clearly not expecting that. Look, I continued, we'll always be connected because of our daughter. And I'll always respect that. But whatever you're hoping for here, it's not happening. Silence. The kind that fills a room and presses on your chest. Finally, she nodded, swallowing whatever pride she had left. I understand. We wrapped up the conversation with some logistical talk, co-parenting schedules, and financial stuff. The kind of adult conversation we probably should have had before she decided to rewrite her life like a bad rom-com. As I walked out of that cafe, I felt free. Truly free. The weeks that followed were smooth. Vanessa stuck to her lane and I kept thriving in mine. My daughter was happy, my business was growing, and I was finally living life on my terms. One night, while tucking my daughter into bed, she looked up at me and said, "Daddy, you seem happier now." Out of the mouths of babes, right? I smiled and kissed her forehead. Yeah, kiddo. I am. Because sometimes, the best thing someone can do for you is leave so you can remember who you were before they tried to change you. And as for Vanessa? Well, last I heard, she switched gyms. You'd think that after that little coffee chat, Vanessa would take the hint and gracefully fade into the background of my life. But no, because when someone's ego takes a hit that hard, they don't just bow out quietly. About a week after our closure conversation, I started noticing little things. Random texts about forgotten items she suddenly needed from the house. Requests to talk more about co-parenting, always at odd hours, always sprinkled with unnecessary personal questions like, "How have you been holding up?" It didn't take a genius to figure out what was happening. Vanessa wasn't just checking in, she was testing the waters, seeing if there was any chance to worm her way back into the life she tossed aside. I kept it polite but distant. Short replies. Strictly about our daughter. No openings for emotional conversations. And honestly, watching her try and fail to rekindle something she shattered was its kind of poetic justice. But then came the real kicker. One evening, I was at the park with my daughter, pushing her on the swings when I saw Vanessa approaching. She wasn't alone. Walking beside her was a woman I vaguely recognized, one of her old gym friends. The kind who lived for drama and protein powder. They chatted for a bit before her friend wandered off, and Vanessa hung back, pretending to watch our daughter play. "You look good, Jake," she said casually as if complimenting me would erase the past year. "Thanks," I replied, keeping my eyes on the swing set. "I've been thinking." She started, her voice dropping into that soft, reflective tone people use when they're about to suggest something stupid. "Maybe we rush things. Maybe we could try family counseling? For our daughter's sake." There it was, the "let's get back together but pretend it's for the kid" card. I turned to face her, calm but firm. "Vanessa, our daughter's doing great. She's happy, stable, and doesn't need the confusion of us playing house again." Her smile faltered, but she pressed on. "It's just, I miss what we had." I couldn't help but chuckle, not out of cruelty, but because the irony was too rich. "You don't miss me, Vanessa. You miss the safety net. You miss knowing someone was there to clean up the mess when your fantasy didn't pan out." She opened her mouth to argue but quickly shut it when she realized I wasn't wrong. "Look," I continued, "we're co-parents now. That's it. And honestly, I'm good with that." She nodded slowly, the weight of reality finally settling on her shoulders. After that day, the text stopped. The accidental run-ins didn't happen anymore. Vanessa finally understood that the door she walked out of was locked behind her, and I had thrown away the key. A few months later, I heard through mutual friends that Travis had moved on to his next client. Vanessa was bouncing between gigs, trying to rebrand herself as some kind of wellness coach. Social media was a ghost town compared to her living my best life days. Meanwhile, I was thriving. My career was solid, my daughter was happy, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. Funny how life works out when you stop chasing people who were never really running towards you in the first place. Update. By now, Vanessa had finally backed off, but life had a funny way of reminding me just how far I'd come since she walked out with her gym bag and ego in tow. A few weeks after our last encounter, I got invited to a community event, a charity auction tied to a local renovation project. Since I'd been doing well with my business and getting more involved in town projects, it felt like a good opportunity to network and give back. I showed up in a suit that actually fit because, yeah, hitting the gym consistently does wonders, and immediately bumped into people I hadn't seen since the Jake and Vanessa days. The compliments rolled in. "Didn't even recognize you, man. Looking sharp, Jake." It felt good, not because I needed validation, but because I knew none of this was for anyone but me and my daughter. And then, because the universe has a sense of humor, I spotted Vanessa across the room. She wasn't the center of attention like she used to be. No bright smiles, no Travis hanging on her arm. Just her, chatting awkwardly with a couple of acquaintances, clearly trying to stay relevant in a crowd that had moved on. Our eyes met briefly. She gave a small wave, more out of obligation than enthusiasm. I nodded politely and kept moving. Later that evening, during the auction, I ended up winning a bid for a weekend cabin getaway. Figured my daughter and I could use a little escape. As I was signing the paperwork, one of Vanessa's old friends approached me. "Didn't think I'd see you here," she said with a sly grin. "Vanessa's been, well, let's just say she's realizing the grass isn't greener." I shrugged. "Not my lawn to mow anymore." She laughed, wished me well, and walked off. It was a simple exchange, but it drove home how much my narrative had changed. I wasn't the guy Vanessa left. I was Jake, the guy who built something better after the storm. A few days after the event, I got one last message from Vanessa. No pretense, no small talk, just a simple, "I hope you're happy." I stared at it for a moment, then typed back, "I am. Truly. I hope you find that too." And I meant it. Not out of kindness, but because I was finally at peace. The real victory wasn't in watching her regret it all, it was knowing I didn't need her regret to validate my growth. These days, my focus is where it should have always been, on my daughter, my business, and the life I'm building with people who actually value loyalty and respect. So if there's a lesson in all this, it's that sometimes losing someone is exactly what you need to find yourself. And trust me, once you find that version of you, there's no going back. It's funny how, when you finally get your life together, the universe starts rewarding you in ways you never expected. Months had passed since that last text from Vanessa. The chapter was closed, sealed, and gathering dust. I wasn't just moving on, I was sprinting forward. My business was thriving, my daughter was growing into a little superstar, and I was finally waking up without that lingering cloud of what-ifs. Then came an email that made me chuckle. Subject: Speaking Opportunity, Local Business Leaders Panel. Apparently, someone thought I was now an example of resilience and entrepreneurship. I almost deleted it. Public speaking wasn't exactly my thing, but then I realized, why not? If my story could inspire someone else stuck in their mess, it was worth it. The night of the event, I stood backstage, adjusting my jacket, feeling a mix of nerves and pride. When they called my name, I walked out to polite applause and spotted familiar faces in the crowd, friends, colleagues, and even a few old neighbors. And because fate loves a good twist, there she was. Vanessa. Sitting near the back, trying to blend in but clearly watching every move I made. I didn't flinch. I shared my journey, how hitting rock bottom wasn't the end but the foundation for rebuilding. I talked about perseverance, about finding strength when you think you've got nothing left. Afterward, people came up to shake my hand, thank me, and asked for advice. It was surreal. Vanessa didn't approach me. She just slipped out quietly, probably realizing that the man on that stage wasn't the same guy she walked out on. A week later, I got a message not from Vanessa but from her sister, who I'd always gotten along with. Just wanted to say I'm proud of you. Vanessa sees it too, even if she'll never admit it. I smiled at that. Validation from the one person who mattered least wasn't necessary, but hearing it secondhand was oddly satisfying. Life kept rolling. I expanded my business, hired a few more employees, and even started mentoring young entrepreneurs. My weekends were filled with soccer games, movie nights with my daughter, and the kind of peace you can't fake. One evening, while locking up the office, I glanced at an old photo on my desk, me back when I thought comfort was enough. I barely recognized that guy. Because sometimes you don't realize how small your world is until you're forced to build a bigger one. And as for Vanessa? Last I heard, she was still finding herself. Funny how that journey never seems to end when you're looking in all the wrong places. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I was grateful. Because losing her was the best thing that ever happened to me. There's a moment when all the noise fades, when the drama dies down, where you finally get to breathe and realize you've won. Not in some petty, look who's better off now way, but in that deep, quiet satisfaction of knowing you survived what was meant to break you. That's where I found myself. It had been over a year since Vanessa walked out thinking she was upgrading her life. And now? I was sitting on the back porch, watching my daughter chase fireflies, sipping a cold drink, and realizing that peace isn't loud, it's silent, steady, and absolutely priceless. Vanessa became a distant memory. Occasionally, I'd hear tidbits. She'd tried a new job, a new wellness brand, maybe even dated another gym bro, but none of it stuck. That's not my concern anymore. What mattered was that I built something real after she left. My business? Thriving. My health? Better than ever, not because I needed revenge abs, but because I respected myself enough to take care of myself. My daughter? Happy, loved, and growing up watching her dad show resilience instead of resentment. One afternoon, while packing up after a job site visit, one of my newer employees, a young guy going through his own breakup, asked me, "How did you get over it? Like, really move on?" I thought about it for a second before answering. "You stop thinking about what you lost," I said, "and start focusing on what you're building. People who walk out weren't part of your future, they were just part of the lesson." He nodded, and I could see the wheels turning in his head. It felt good to pass that wisdom along, the kind you only earn by walking through the fire. That night, I found myself scrolling through old photos, not out of nostalgia, but curiosity. It was wild seeing how much had changed. The guy in those pictures looked comfortable. Too comfortable. The kind of comfort that blinds you to how stagnant things really are. I closed the album and opened a new folder, pictures of recent projects, trips with my daughter, moments that actually mattered. Because that's the thing about starting over, you realize that rock bottom is solid ground to build on. So, where am I now? I'm not rich. I'm not famous. But I'm free. Free from a relationship that ran on autopilot. Free from someone who thought better was just a shinier distraction. And if Vanessa ever truly finds herself, I hope she figures out that happiness isn't about trading up, it's about growing up. As for me, I'll keep building. Keep raising my daughter. Keep living a life that doesn't need to be broadcasted with hashtags and gym selfies. So here's my question to you. If you were in Jake's shoes, would you have taken Vanessa back when she came knocking? Or would you, like Jake, realize that sometimes the best door is the one you never reopen? Let me know what you'd do, because in my opinion, closing that door was the best decision Jake have made. Hope you enjoyed this story as much as I do. Help this small channel grow by hitting that like button, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. Every bit of support means the world. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.